In the military, there is a policy and regulation for everything. It's actually quite easy to be in the military if you can follow the rules, they say. Rule of thumb, be in the right uniform at the right place at the right time. Simple, right? I chuckle because within this saying, there is a whole lot of gray area and a little thing called commander's discretion. Ultimately, they get the final say in what the regulation is stating. The problem with regulations and rules is that it could take on a different meaning based off the person interpreting them. One person can read it as saying one thing while the other can interpret a whole different picture. What happens when you're caught in the middle and you're faced to make a decision? Do you stand 10 toes down on what you know? Or do you cave and take their recommendation? Let's take a deep dive into this TikTok situation and break it all the way down. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I'm Army Princess, a U.S. Army soldier. I've been in the military for well over 15 years now, and I love to share my experiences with you all. Y'all said y'all wanted to see me, so had to set it up here at my kitchen table so y'all can see me, and this video is definitely one that y'all needed to see me for because we about to take a deep dive. If you are a new subscriber, welcome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss an upload. I am coming back with my little podcast style, and I definitely like to tussle in the comments. So if you're here for it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you are returning, welcome back. Go ahead and drop one of them green hearts. If you are OG Army Princess platoon member, you know about the green hearts, go ahead and drop it down in the comment section below. Today's topic is very near and dear to my heart because this situation actually happened to me when I was a young private. And at the end of the segment, I'm going to go into detail a little bit about my situation and how I handled it, similar to this situation. But y'all, we're going to take a deep dive into today's topic.
So apparently my hair is out of regulations. I don't know how, but I brought a backup wig just in case, and I'm gonna have to put it on. All right, y'all, I got all the products that I need.
Hair and grooming standards have always been a point of discussion in the military, from my standpoint, I will say. In fact, so much so that I have dedicated a lot of my channel and my prior content to makeup, beauty, hair, nails, how to look feminine in uniform, all of the things. So this topic here and the situation that happened with this soldier, we definitely need to take a deep dive into it. And I am going to break it down into three, not four, three categories. Number one being what the regulation actually says, like what is in the black and white. Number two, the interpretation and the gray area that this could fall in and how she ended up in the predicament she ended up in. And then number three, the last part is going to be what the problem is with this whole situation. My view of the problem with this particular situation and how it is literally 10, 15 years from when it happened to me and it's still happening. So let's get into segment number one, which is the regulation. We are going to start at the beginning with the regulation. I am going to put it up on the screen here because I want y'all to see this. And I want y'all to know that this is definitely coming from the black and white. It is not something that I made up. It is not something that I feel about the situation. It is the Army regulation and standard. And what the regulation in AR 670-1 states is that your hair needs to be a natural hair color. This is the thing that gets people all the time. It doesn't say it has to be my natural hair color. It doesn't say it has to be your natural hair color. It says a natural hair color. So in this particular situation, Homegirl was well within her right. She was within the standards. She had blonde, which is a natural hair color. Of course, it probably wasn't her natural hair color, but there are people walking around with blonde hairs growing out of their head. Probably some African American people with blonde hairs growing out of their head, depending on where they are. But at the end of the day, the regulation states that it has to be a natural hair color. And so when she put on her wig or did her hair or whatever the case may be, and she came to work that day, she was within the regulation. She was not wrong, y'all. She was not wrong. If you remember back in my very, very first podcast episode of the new year, 2024, I said that there are some problems with the things that Black people do in the military. And I'll put the link, the video up top. Please go check it out if you haven't done so. But I feel like this scenario, this situation falls into that category. Whether I like it, whether you like it, whether her leadership liked it or not, she was within the regulation. The thing is, the style and the color against her complexion was probably so far left that they fell into that. They brought their own biases to work that day and said, no, I don't think you are within standard. You need to change it. Let's segue into segment number 2, which is gray area interpretation. The problem with regulations, the problem with the rules, as I stated in the intro, is that if I read it and I interpret it one way and the commander reads it and they interpret it a whole nother way, ultimately it is up to the commander who has the last word. And you got to think, you got people all around the military that come from different Black backgrounds, different socio-economic backgrounds, different upbringings, different everything. And so people could read the exact same thing and interpret it 2 or 3 different ways, depending on the lens that they see it in, the lens that they were brought up in. And so I feel like this situation fell in that category. And I am going to talk a little bit about my situation and how this is very similar to what happened to me when I was a young private. And it was a matter of interpretation. So let me take a little sip of wine for this one. All right. So I was a young PFC. PFC is E3. I was stationed in Germany. It was my second duty station. And I proceeded to get a style that I thought was within regulations. I thought was cute. Do y'all remember when people used to people still do it, but get half of their hair braided going straight back, and then the back part is kind of left open? So I had a sewing in the back part that was kind of like a natural afro look, but the front was braided down and braided back. Now the regulation for this particular situation hasn't changed. It says that the hair cannot be lopsided. My first sergeant, who was Black at the time, he interpreted the regulation as my hair was lopsided because the back was out, but the front was braided down. So to him, that meant that my hair was lopsided. How he got lopsided out of that, I don't know, but that's how he interpreted it. To me, if you say lopsided, I would say short on one side and a little bit longer on the other side, kind of like the Nicki Minaj bob thing. But he interpreted my hair as lopsided. And I did just exactly what this young lady did. I was very, very upset because I had just gotten it done. It was fresh. You know when your hair is fresh, it's still tight. So I think I had got it done like on a Friday, went out that Saturday, Sunday, came to work Monday. And he was like, your hair is not in regulation. It's lopsided. You need to take it down. Your girl was tight. I was upset about it. So I went home that day, cried to my husband, and took my hair down. I came to work the next day and my hair was taken down. And in the scenario that we just watched, she went into the bathroom and she took her hair down to be in compliance with their interpretation of the regulation. I just hate that people, and it's hard to be, you try to be, with the regulation, they try to be as specific as possible because some things are generalized, but this clearly says of a natural hair tone, and it clearly said it can't be lopsided, but still people interpret it any old way that they have the lens on that they see. And I think that brings us to segment number 3, which is the problem. Before we get into the problem, I am going to show y'all a clip from Digital 4856, who is a sergeant major here on TikTok. She does a lot. I brought her up in some of my other podcast videos. She does a lot with breaking down the regulation, the black and white, and putting it in layman's terms so people can really understand it. So let's take a look at her video.
Let us address the elephant in the room, the ginger hair color and the blonde hair color with a darker skin tone. Question, is the ginger hair color a natural hair color? Other question, is the blonde hair color a natural hair color? Of course, they gave us examples of, blending and colors and all that stuff. And if you pay attention, leaders, at the bottom of that example, it says rule of thumb, if the color does not grow out of a human head, then it is not natural. Therefore, if it grows out of somebody's head naturally, then it is authorized. Note, the Alleract message does not state that the natural hair color must match the skin tone of the person that's wearing it. There's absolutely nowhere in the regulation or in the Alleract that states that. Therefore, whether you are white, black, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, Asian, whatever nationality you are, whatever gender you are, regardless of your skin tone, you are authorized to wear a natural hair color. Now, some of us out here are telling soldiers that it must match their skin tone. That is not accurate. Nowhere in the Alleract or nowhere in the regulation does it say that it must match their skin tone. So therefore, if you're going to correct this, you must also correct this.
She did a good job of literally explaining what I explained, is that the regulation says black and white. This soldier did what she thought was right at the time, which was going to the bathroom and take it down and correct it. And she did a phenomenal job of, from my viewpoint, of going in there and just correcting the issue and maybe probably dealing with it later. We didn't see, or we don't know. She didn't really say, but that's a good question for you guys that are watching. What would you have done? If you know what the regulation is, or you know what your interpretation of the regulation is, and somebody else comes and said, it's wrong, you need to change it, you need to fix it now, what would you do? Because I know we had a lot in the military. Like I said, it's happened to me. It has happened to some people that I know, because their interpretation is their interpretation. Ultimately, the commander makes the decision and the last call. But let me know in the comments what y'all would have did. But this kind of is a segue into my segment number 3, which is the problem. The problem is there are not enough leaders getting into the regulation, learning the regulation, knowing the regulation before they want to enforce the regulation. You need to know, and I say this all the time, I harp on this in all of my videos, especially when it comes to 670-1 and hair grooming standards in the military. You need to know the regulation. You need to know it front and back, inside and out. Definitely you need to know it before you go up to somebody else and tell them that they need to make a correction, or you make an on-the-spot correction for somebody else. It's just way too often that this type of situation is happening, and you know the culture, or you can kind of sense the culture of her unit, because she already came prepared. She already came to work with an extra bag of wigs in case somebody said something to her, which means, from my interpretation, somebody has said something to her in the past about a prior hairstyle. And to me, she knows what the regulation is. She didn't come to work with purple hair or pink hair or blue hair or fire engine red hair. She came to work with blonde hair. So for her to know that somebody was going to say something to her, speaks a lot about the culture of that unit. It speaks a lot about the leadership for letting it happen. Like, nobody spoke up. No other leadership spoke up and said, nobody said, hey, before we make this soldier change their hair, let's bring it to the commander and get their final say on the situation. Like, I just feel like nobody spoke up for the soldier. This is a specialist, a young soldier in the military. And that's the same way I felt when I was a PFC back in Germany over 10 years ago. I had nobody to speak up for me. And then you feel, when you're lower enlisted, you feel like you have to do it. It's going to look bad on me if I don't do it. I'm going to look like a bad soldier. I'm going to look like a problem soldier if I don't make the correction, or if I speak up and say something, or if I go against the grain, or if I speak up to a senior leader. Like, that's how I was feeling when I was the PFC and I was getting talked to. And I knew from my interpretation what the regulation said, but still nobody stood up for me. And so I specifically wanted to do this type of video and go away from The Problem Is series on the podcast and speak on this because, like I said, it happened to me. So it felt very close to home. And we need more leaders to speak up. We need more leaders to get in the regulation. We need more leaders to know and understand what the regulation says before they make an on-the-spot correction. And we need to sit down and talk to our young soldiers and let them know, like, hey, if you feel in your heart of hearts, you feel like you are right and you can back it up with the regulation on a piece of paper, you have the right to use the commander's open door policy and go to that commander and voice your opinion and voice your concern with your leadership. I mean, it doesn't have to be a secret, but you have that right to go to your commander or go to your higher leadership and voice your concern before they make you do something. And you could do it tactfully. I talked about that in my very first podcast episode. Be tactful. Do it tactfully. But you have that right. I just wanted to bring this topic to light because I feel like there are not enough leaders speaking up for junior enlisted soldiers. And there are not enough leaders who are actually putting in the work and doing the work and getting into the regulation, getting into the black and white, and really knowing and understanding what it says, especially when it comes to hair and grooming standards. It's all about people's feelings. It's all about what people have been doing. It's all about how it used to be back in the day in the Army with some of these leaders instead of what it is now, what the regulations are saying now, what your soldiers are doing now. Times are changing, regulations are changing, and you need to change with it. All right, y'all. Y'all got me fired up. I'm going to go ahead and end this. I hope you all like this content where you can actually see me. I'm going to start doing a lot more like this, bringing these topics to the table. And if y'all have any topics, if y'all have anything over on TikTok that y'all want me to discuss, let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.